G'day everyone, this is Luna and I want to welcome you to the round table. And this week on the table we have Jules and Sharon. Welcome, Jules. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me again.
And Sharon, so good to have you back. Welcome.
Oh, I've missed you guys. You have no idea. Thank you.
Oh, we have missed you too.
Yeah, we have. So it's just the three of us, and later on some people will jump in. If they want to jump in and join us, they are quite welcome to. The subject matter for this week is what's the opposite to fear? So fear has many faces. What does it look like? What does it feel like? How do we combat it, and what really is the opposite of fear? I've had so many different answers to this question, I just had to bring it to everybody else. So I'm going to throw it to Jules and Sharon to start this off. I know Sharon's busting to say, because we've missed you so much, so I'll throw it to you, Sharon. What do you think the opposite to fear is, and let's have a look at how it lives in our world.
Thank you again for having me on your show. It's been a while, and it's so wonderful to come back. Fear is such a great subject. I've just started a new contract about a month ago, and a lot of it has come up for me, so the timing is really good. And before the show, I was talking about how fear is used and has been used since I got on this planet to sell anything, right? So, I mean, I think a good conversation is, first of all, what exactly is it before we get into the opposite of it and how it's being used. And I looked up the definition of fear. It's a natural, powerful, and primitive human emotion. And the reason I mentioned this is because I believe that we've been programmed since we got on this planet to do the, as Naysay says, the powers that should not be's bidding. And why not appeal and reach out to our primitive human emotion? We have fear to protect us. It's an alert system. It's not to be overused. It's not to be on five alarm fire drills every single day, which is, I think, where we are at this moment in time. And again, as I said, they use it to sell products, commercials about the hospital, insurance, food, vitamins. Every single thing you do or anything you hear about is all about the fact that you're trying to overcome the fear if you don't do it. And I think at some point it almost goes to an unconscious level. And the first time I ever heard FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which I also think are words that go with fear, is when I worked in business and IBM used FUD as a marketing strategy. So back in the day, if marketing, and I think if we look at Google and Apple and we look at Amazon right now, we could certainly call them companies of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because they have such power and they sway so much control within our business world, our government, our world, right? So this is a very powerful tool for them. And before I throw it out there to the rest of the team here, what I would say is probably the best opposite of fear is love. And to jump from your absolute fear to go to love, that's where the work is. That's where the goodness is. That's where the growth is. So with that, I'm turning it back over to you guys.
Okay.
I would wholeheartedly agree with FUD. The fear, the doubt, the uncertainty. 100% agree with that. And me and Luna were talking about this the other night. And fear, what the opposite of fear is, it's different. It's something different to the individual that it's asked. I for the most part feel like it's love. But for me, looking at it and thinking about it, it's kind of like there's an umbrella of emotions that fear could be opposite of. I mean, it's not just love, it's courage, it's ambivalence, and I know I said that wrong. Sorry about that. And hope are all things that we face fear with. But Polly was chatting with me earlier today, and he did bring up a point. So it takes courage to overcome fear, but you lack the courage he just said it in chat. Fear and courage are the same, but just different poles. And I agree with that in the sense that lack of courage is fear, and fear is lack of courage.
So yes, the one end of the stick, each end of the stick. You know, in asking this question to many people over the last week, even myself, I've come up with like 7 different answers. Some of them are repetitive, like courage. I'll just read you what people have said to me. Love, faith, acceptance, courage, trust, calmness, hope, confidence. But I love the fear, uncertainty and doubt, what Sharon said, because spiritually, when those energies come to you, they're associated to the dark ones, because that's their tools that they use, fear, uncertainty and doubt. And doubt is a really, really tricky one, because you can recognise fear when it comes, and you know when you're being uncertain. And when doubt pops in, though, it takes you a while before you realise you're starting to question things that you shouldn't be, and you're off centre again and fear jumps in. They're like...
For me, doubt is the biggest fear trigger. Facing the unknown and doubt, well, it brings doubt, and with that doubt comes fear. I mean, there's world fear, there's personal fear. Fear is just, it's one of those 4-letter words that I don't like.
Yeah, one of them 4-letter words. But I noticed too, fear itself doesn't work real well without its little henchmen like uncertainty and doubt and that kind of thing, whereas love can stand strong on its own. We'll go back to what really is one definition. So most people have said courage is the opposite to fear. Define courage. Is that the one where you get the energy to do things even though you don't want to do it?
I think with courage, it's something you have to pull within yourself. I think what inspires us to have courage are different things for different people. Like for me, I just love that movie, The Gladiator. You know, and I know I've talked a lot about it on Kev Baker's show. But the reason I love that movie, besides the fact of the eye candy for women, but the fact is that when he was the captain, he had the horses, the army, the men, the money, the power, and he was the right-hand military arm of the king. And the king is killed, and he gets captured. You know, his family's killed, and he gets captured. He gets thrown in the ring. He has nothing. He has absolutely nothing. He is a gladiator. And he becomes something, because what was inside him wasn't the horse and the power and the army and the money and the family. It was really what was inside him. So the true meaning of that movie is the fact that he did it for an honorable reason. He gave his life for an honorable reason, but it was who he was inside. And so when I think of fear and I think of facing the fear, whoever we are, what motivates us, what prompts us, what pushes us to walk through the fear is so internal. And different things motivate us, I think, at different times. Sometimes it's prayer, sometimes it's a movie or a character or some book you read, you know, that kind of stuff. And I think you're right that there are many words, not just love. I mean, I would look up lion-heartedness, great-heartedness, heroism, confidence, bravery, backbone. And I think about some of these words that I think are being removed from some of our conversations out in the world, like backbone. You don't get to hear that word very often. That's something that seems to be missing.
True.
Virtue, right? Things like that.
I agree that the definition that my quick assistant called Google came up with is the ability to do something that frightens one. And then another definition they gave is strength in the face of pain or grief.
Yes.
We've got Leslie in the chat room. Courage is being true in spite of fear. Polly, courage is courage is a lack of fear. Fear is a lack of courage. And courage isn't the kind of thing you use every day. It's not like you need it every day on your daily basis. You wake up and do your jobs, what you have to do, and interact with people. It's not a daily thing that you take. Do you think
there are some people who need courage, who have courage every day? Me and Leslie, we've had to have courage every day for the past almost year and a half. I mean, it for me, in my personal world, I have to have courage just to get through the day. It's something that I still struggle with. Branching out of my comfort zone. I don't like the fear of finding a new job, and with that fear comes the uncertainty and comes the doubt. And then it does take courage to get over that. I practice courage in my daily life.
I think that's a very good point, because I think you're right, Luna. We may not have had to do this before the last year and a half quite as much as we have now. And I think, again, going back to the broadcast industry from our beloved government and the powers that should not be, and the press and all of it. I mean, I've sort of turned off a lot of things this last month so I could just focus on learning my new job, right? So I've just kind of put some things on hold. It doesn't matter. It comes through. We all know what's going on, whether we pay attention a lot or a little. And, we've got all this junk that they're ratcheting up every single day now. It's like a 5-alarm fire. And speaking of that, in California, drought, food shortage, and I think it takes perseverance, courage, and a conviction for you to want to keep going under the circumstances that we're in. And because we're seeing probably friends and family who are leaving. One of my very dear friends isn't here. He left. He transitioned on the 13th of this month. And I think we're going to see probably other people that we really love that may not stay for all of the things that are going on. And so there's going to be the courage for us to go on without our friends. The people that have seen, have been there for us for a long time. So maybe a lot of different kinds of courage are going to be needed as we walk through this.
Well, I was just thinking that too, because we're having different kinds of fear being presented to us as well. While you were talking, I'm thinking, gee, it's a lot different to the days where we had to go out and get our own food, and in your countries maybe fight off a bear or something, and fear is a present thing because it keeps you alert against predators. And we got lax and comfortable. Those predators aren't around. And now the actual predators, the form of the predator has changed. The fear still feels the same, but it looks a lot different. And we, how can I explain it? So what we used to have courage, like Jules was saying, courage in different things. I need to get that job. I need courage and confidence to get that job. now the courage we need is a little bit from everywhere, because the fear is being presented to us on many levels. And I feel we've had to adapt really quickly in applying these things. You know what I'm getting at?
Do.
Yes, and I think we're manifesting. I think the other piece, Luna and Jules, is we are manifesting very quickly.
Yes.
I believe we've had this conversation, and I think what I realized this week especially is I could not kick the fear that I was feeling, the anxiety from this new, just the situation I was in. And so I manifested all this drama because I'm manifesting things in the moment, and I go back to something I think Steven said, and I think you might have been on the show, Luna, where he said he was talking to the ancestors, and they said, "What good are you to us if your thoughts are not something that we can work with?"
Yeah.
And so I think the other piece that I would throw down at this moment is the fact that we are operating at a very different level. We're not better. We've chosen to operate at a very different level. And it reminds me of that Mickey Mouse thing where he was doing magic and the magic went crazy.
Yeah.
Right? What was that, Fantasia?
Yep.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, the Sorcerer's, yes, I remember.
And so we are wielding, WHEEL, we are wielding a tremendous amount of power right now. And so the other piece of this is, I feel like I'm tripping over my shoelaces some days. Because it's like, oh my God, look what I manifested. Now I have to unmanifest it.
Yeah, it's because we've been ushered into this really quickly, so it's not like we've had time to sit with it and figure it out and go, oh, look, if I do that, this happens, and if I do, and exercise it so we know what it's like. It's just come upon us. And yeah, you're right, Sharon. We're just like, the button's been pressed and it's ready or not, manifestation. And then you find yourself, oh, I shouldn't have been thinking that when I did that. Yeah, I've noticed that real quick. I've been guarding my thoughts and body. And that's what I want to ask you too. When we'll move to more positive talk about fear, but I just want to recognise its face and stuff first. When fear comes, do you think that there's fear in your body and your mind? So if you're going to get rid of the fear out of you, and you take it out of your mind, you've got to take it out of your body as well? Or do you think that perhaps it just all goes in one go? Because I've noticed.
I personally think you have to get it out of your entire universe. You have to. Okay, let me use the word I, because that's not fair. I feel like yesterday another thing happened that I got promised wouldn't. And so I'm looking in the mirror thinking, look, I'm saying to myself, look what you manifested again, because of the doubt that I'm putting out there, because of I'm feeling very frustrated that it's not going to get resolved. And I'm laying, and I have my higher self has showed up this last month. Like, look, we know that you are in doing something that we're asking you to do. You're not in over your head, but you are at another level. We are going to walk with you through this. So where I am at this moment it's my entire universe. It's like looking at the energy around me, the energy within me, the energy that, like, my thoughts, my words, everything is happening all at once now. That I have to clear it all out.
Yep. Yeah, big cleaning up, I noticed, with everybody. Some people notice things they didn't even know they had. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that we'll keep with what's happening now, because there's so much happening now and we've had to adjust and move and adapt so quickly.
There's a lot happening right now. I've kept incredibly late hours this week, and I was listening to Clyde Lewis on multiple occasions this weekend, and it's just the insight that he brings on things makes me think. And he had a couple of shows this week that kind of tie in to fear. And I could see it tying into fear. We had a minor CME, and our magnetic pole, our magnetic field is weakened, and all those rays coming from the sun affect us. We don't see them or feel them, but they affect us. And a lot of the things that we're going through are affected. For me, I feel like with these rays coming from the sun. The sun is not the sun that I knew when I was a child. It was yellow, it was bright, it was a happy sun. The sun now is white and it's like a pure ball of radiation. It doesn't even feel the same. But there was another show that Clyde did this week, and he was talking about timelines and how, and he compared it to Loki on streaming on Disney Plus, on how it pertains to him messing with timelines and the time cops with the variant. And it does, and though he made perfectly good sense to me in my mind, how that's the reality we're in. Is some people are we're living on two different timelines, and there's a point where they overlap. There's the people like us that know what's going on, and the people who are oblivious and don't see it. It's because they're kind of living in a different reality, but at certain points of the day they overlap. It's like we're stuck in the nexus. That, and with the cosmic weather, the cosmic activity, it affects us, and it's the way that it affected lately affecting me is the fear has been amped up. But I notice that it's only amped up when I look at things and I hear people talking, and it's like going back, they're in their own world, and I'm trying to make peace with taking care of myself, my friends, my family, you guys, because at the end of the day, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I'm going to adapt ZX's philosophy. It's going to happen regardless, so I'm going to sit on my hill and I'm going to smile because I cherish what I have and the people that I love.
Man, that is bingo, 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 and a whole bunch of bingo. I wanted to, and Luna, if you don't mind, I just want to throw this out there really quick to tag on to what Jules said.
Take your time.
I listened to the shows also, Jules. He nailed it, in my opinion. The timelines, and one of the questions I have had this last month while I'm working remotely, and I know Jules and I had a quick conversation, I think a week ago, about feeling like we're walking in a Sims game. My question, and adding, and this is in addition to what you just said, because I'm just like, yes, that's exactly right. Will there be a time that we're not going to be able to cross the timeline with these guys, with the people that are doing the woke stuff, right? That they always recognized us for not being one of them anyway. And if the timelines continue to do what they're doing, what happens? And I think that's what he was talking about last night, right? Was we can't fix the past, can't fix the future where we are necessarily, or we can fix the future where we are, but we can't fix the past necessarily. But will there be a time, say, like even in a job, where we're going to try to go do a job with everybody being 95% woke, and we're not going to be able to do it anymore because we're not going to have the language, the frequency, and we're not going to be able to relate to them, and they're not going to be able to relate to us.
Well, in my personal world, just in 1 week, my best friend who lives in New York City, they made it mandatory that you cannot go to any indoor activities unless you have proof of vaccination or passport. You can't go to theater, you can't go to concerts, you can't dine. 2 days later, here in Virginia, they made it mandatory for all state health employees to have gene therapy, and they've also made it mandatory for all city employees to have gene therapy done. So just in 1 week, searching for a job, I eliminated half of the places that I was applying for.
Right.
Well,
That's exactly correct.
I
Go ahead, Luna.
was just thinking about it in an energy form, and that eventually energy does take some sort of form, and even if you don't see it physically, the gifted people can see it spiritually, and it has a form. And I think we're seeing it in forms we've never thought, like, you know, you can't just go out and get any job now because there's parameters. And it's going to get more uncomfortable, I know that. But I'm looking at on an energetic field, because we all know it's energy first, manifest second. So we've got this energy running around. It's showing us many faces, but we know if you break it down, we can see it for what it is. And it can come in our ears or in our eyes, but we know that it's fear. The face of it is just fear itself, whether it comes in...
fear Yahweh, which is different than all the rest.
Who's... Oh, that's Malia. Malia's mic, I heard that. Yeah, we're talking about...
I'm sorry.
You're right, love. So we're seeing it, like I was saying, we're seeing it for what it is, but it has different faces to what we thought, because we never thought before what's happening right now would actually happen. And it's only happened in the form of a war, and we could identify what was what. Now we can't identify it because it's you, it's me, it's the neighbour, it's the fella up the street, and the people at the shop. It's our family, and it's jumping in there. All of us manifest in its face. We quickly have to learn to recognise it for what it is. Not that, oh, I come out, my neighbour said this to me, put fear in me. We don't blame the neighbour. It's the fear that was in the neighbour, and we allowed it to get on us. Because we've got to get a control on it somehow. When it comes to us, we can't just let it attack us in all these different forms without recognising it and consolidating it into one energy and going bang, then you can hit it on the head. You know where it comes from. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yes.
You did good.
Yes. I think you're right, but I also wonder, and this is all coming up based on our conversation in this last 20 minutes. Is this level of fear and anxiety, because I noticed for me there's a lot of anxiety that I didn't used to have, and I'm wondering for me if it's just trying to connect with people and figuring and feeling kind of like I'm really not on the same planet. So that okay, if you go back to what you said, Luna, we are humans and we want to connect. We are relators. We are connectors. And the problem is, in so many situations, we're not in the same room with everybody, right? We're going through this technology trying to connect to people, which isn't easy in the first place, right? And I think it causes more anxiety. And so it's a different kind of fear that I think I've had to deal with before.
Yeah.
That's exactly true. This is a different kind of fear for everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Malia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd love to join in. I got an answer for you.
Give it to us, girl.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of etymology and word digging. Where did this word come from? And fear is a big one. Yeah, obviously, the opposite of pure fear is pure love. So in kind of the word etymology, what we're looking at with fear, we have three basic definitions. We have the sudden realization that you are without borders or without walls for a home, some kind of a that you are without your 5 basic needs for living, right? Then we have a definition of fear that is like you are without strength to change anything about the situation that you're going through. So the definition of being without strength can bring forth a sudden fear, a sudden instantaneous type of realization or understanding of that. And then we have the type of fear that's kind of related with fire or related with a sudden destruction, which can bring on fear. that that realization of, oh my goodness, there's my house is burning down in front of me, or there's somebody shooting at me, or these kinds of things that can bring an instant fear or instant scared feeling. In opposite of that, because we have like a yin yang, a positive, negative, opposite understanding in this to get a really good base, we have the three definitions of love, which is, we have love for our family, a kind of love that's for family members, a kind of love that's for friendships, and a kind of love that is for marital relationships or partnerships type thing. That's where we share on a different level, right? So that same way we can look at how can fear be overcome. Well, fear is overcome with love. So each one of those can balance out one of those kinds of fear, if that makes sense, if I'm making sense. So like a teeter-totter, if you understand that the one kind of fear where suddenly your borders are missing, like what Sharon was talking about when we first began, suddenly they raised the rent on her. Well, if your landlord comes in and raises the rent unexpectedly on you, you are faced suddenly with the fear of the possibility of losing your covering, your home over you, because now, can I afford this? This is a huge, difference in my budget. I have to adjust over here and add over here. I might have to work more or earn more money, or I may just have to face, I can't afford that and don't have a home anymore, right? So to conquer that, if we understand that we have we have the friendship love around us, that we can call upon our friends, and in that understanding, that it kind of balances that out, if that makes sense. Am I making sense?
Yes. No, you are.
Yeah.
You are. You're making good sense.
You are.
Yeah.
I was going to say something similar, because while everyone was talking, I'm hearing all these words getting thrown around, and all of a sudden, while they were floating in the air, I watched them all connect. And it broke down what you were saying, all the little areas. And I realised when Sharon said anxiety, I looked at the group of words that I had, and I realised there's one word for every other word. So we have like trust, and then you've got, because we said how fear has many allies, distrust, which brings doubt. Do you know what I mean? And I watched them and how they're all connected, and you are right. I'm really glad we had this conversation, because it's broken it down. I can see it way better for what it is. Keep going, Leah. Sorry.
No, that's the point of it, and we understand the base letters or the base numbers are, you start with 3, like we've talked about it on KBS before, where with the perfect pattern of 3s. That's found in ancient languages too. You find this base understanding that there's 3 in everything. And so if you can break it down to 3 definitions or 3 meanings, 3 understandings, then you've come to a foundation level. And then, like exactly what you said, Luna, we can look at it and be able to conquer it for what it is. Because fear is not only something that is used to control us, it's also used to manipulate in some very nefarious ways. No? We see politicians and this kind of thing, people in power that are consumed with shoving fear propaganda down our faces. So it's everywhere we look. It's everywhere we see this reminder of, social distancing, or do this to keep everybody safe. Just to do this to be safe and keep everybody safe is the opposite of what the experience of this life is all about.
So true. You know what? And here in Australia,
I mean,
Donnie will back me up on this. We're kind of built on fear, because as you know, if you don't vote, you get into trouble, you're going to get fined, so they fear into voting. Everything here is like that, honestly. If you don't do this, there's some sort of fear combat thing to put you in line. I'm waiting for the do not walk on the grass or you're going to get fined sign, because the air here is so much like that. Even before this happened, I noticed that Australia was tight ass, and I'll say it straight out, as where freedom comes in, because half the stuff in our society, if they say if you don't do it, and they've got a fear to throw it at you. Every single letter you get off the establishments begins with a threat. Every single letter.
Yeah.
If your electricity bill's late, there's a threat. We live in a society of fear.
Yeah. The letter from my landlord every single month. It's a threat that he's going to be raising the rent next month. I don't know. Or maybe, he sent me a text message that says, "Oh, I've put your property up for sale."
Another threat, yeah. And
it's okay. Well, I guess I'll start looking for another place to live then. I mean, that's what it's like, and it's in our society, in our culture, in our mindset of today. It's all around us. It's in our religion. It's in our daily life maintenance that this thing is going to come down on top of us and we're going to be left without, which is one of those basic definitions of fear, to be found without. Where do we find our center and our peace in that is to be without and be happy.
Exactly.
Know that Creator provides every moment of everything that you need. The scriptures say, and I love this one because it's so valid to creation and all of the truth and stuff. It says that the sparrow doesn't have to worry about storing up its food. Its food is provided every single day for itself. The flowers, they don't have to work for, the things that they need to grow. And we're the same way, essentially. Creator has provided everything that we need for our basic survival. It's our reptilian sensibilities, or the snake part of who we are, that jumps out and bites us in the ass with comfort, with conveniences, with I'm going to grab this because I just don't want to go out and work for it right now. That is going to be, and I'm going to go on a soapbox in a minute because this is so like where my passion is for sure. But I truly believe that's the downfall of Americans right now. It's because the convenience is so convenient. It's just right in your face. Grab it, go.
I agree.
Oh, here we're
It's the same here in Australia as well, Malia.
Your money so you can keep it's going to crush people when it's taken away. Americans are going to have such a hard, most Americans, not all, some understand this, but when it comes to the majority, yeah.
What's the opposite of arrogance?
Hey, Polly, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Polly.
Confidence.
Yeah, I agree, Sharon, definitely. The opposite of arrogance would be humility, and in humility you find, Leslie, in humility you find that bravery, that confidence or courage of, I'm sure with myself. I know that I'm good. I don't need.
I would propose
exterior
that all opposites are actually a complete polar opposite of the same thing, and in fact, all opposites aren't really opposed to each other. They are merely degrees of each other.
Yes, because what I was going to say is in the beginning of the whole conversation, we're talking about. I think it was Sharon or Jules that said it. I'm not sure how when you're fretting someone over and over and over again, eventually there's no fear left and you stand up. And that's what is happening to us. We've been stripped of everything. Even, Polly, you brought up the opposite of the same thing is actually the same thing. You're looking at the front and the back of the same item. And I feel that if we strip ourselves of everything, and that's what's happening to us, we're slowly being stripped of everything. All you have left is divinity, and then we can rebuild upon that divinity without the mind trick. But we have.
I also think that if you look at any opposite, you cannot clearly draw a line between the two opposites where one becomes the other. For example, if you're taking a look at temperature, okay, and there is no line that designates what becomes hot and what becomes cold. There is only hotter and only colder.
True.
So there's no line that separates those two opposites. They're just in fact degrees of the same thing. Degrees being a pun that's intended here.
Yes. No, I understand, because it's not till you get to the opposites of polarity that you can stand back and actually say, well, you're different. Because if you walk into the middle, they become the same. It's the back and the front of the same object. Then all we're left with, because they're words, right? They're just words that trigger thoughts and feelings. If you, like I said, if you strip them away, all you got left is your being, your spiritual being. And I don't know about anyone else, but there's a point there where you recognise love and you recognise all these other emotions. But when you're in that place, you don't feel them the same as you do when you're feeling emotion in its raw substance. You observe it in a different way. And I truly feel we're being stripped away to that position. And once we get to that position, no one can play with us because they can't put fear in us. And we can't get compelled to the opposite polarity because we're standing in that position. And it's vibration, a vibrational thing. So I want to go back to...
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm so passionate about it, for sure.
Evening all, but what part of the brain does that consciousness come from? Where is it that it becomes, I would use a term, man or human, that this thought is at inside of us?
Exactly, that's what I was sort of talking about, Bernays. Thank you, Bernays, for joining us. I'll tell you something that... Oh, well, this is open. We're in open chat for all. It's all right. I was looking at something's happened to me in the last 2 weeks. I've gone through a double thing. I'll share it with you, kinda. As you know, things got pressured here in Australia, so I had to go out and face things I didn't want to face, and I had to find my courage, and I had to recognise fear and combat it. But while that was all happening, spiritually another thing was happening to me. I recognised that my thoughts, my actual thoughts in my head, were getting flooded with fear because I was hearing things from the news, I'm listening to other people, and I stood there and went, oh, look, my head's just full of chaos. And I checked my heart, and my heart was okay. And it was all right. It still felt right, but it was my head that was going off in fear. And I thought, okay, how do I get this? And I was doing my calm, my thought things and all that, what I recommend for other people when I try myself. But this time they weren't quite working. And I'm thinking, oh no, I don't want to, none of us want to lose it, right? We go walking through this together, we're getting to different points in our lives, and we all come to that pinnacle where it's like, oh, am I going to lose it today? That was one of those things. I don't want to lose it. What am I going to do? All of a sudden, I started to light my body up. But what happened is around my head, all the light was concentrated around my head. All the light was concentrated in my mind virtually, and my whole head just lit up. And it looked like a little ring of fire, if I could say it that way, around my head. And I filled it up with this light that it was a little different to what I use in my actual physical body. Because I was using it in my thoughts to try and stop this from coming in. So the little ring of fire went around my head and it lit up, and bang, it pushed out all those thoughts. And then I was calm and centered, and I'm like, wow, this is the norm, what I normally feel. How did it get in there? Because I let it in, obviously. I didn't recognise it when it come in. So I'm still looking at exactly how it got in there, because it gets in many ways. But the point was that it was the ring of fire calmed the thoughts, and the fear and everything is coming in that way. And I had to adjust my healing to combat it, which was unusual. So I know it's a different kind of thing we're fighting. So if that helped at all.
Actually, that helped a lot. I kind of wonder. Yeah. I kind of wonder if something I've noticed in my meditation the last month is I always look to see if there's any kind of darkness connected to me or energy drain sucking, something.
Yep.
And this thing showed up, and it didn't have a name. And I said, "Who are you and what are you?" And it said, "I'm going to be around, and I need to always monitor to make sure it's not connected to me." And I'm wondering if we're having more of that kind of thing happen, which goes to your ring of fire, that in our morning meditations, prayers, or whenever we do it, We have to make sure that while they're out there fanning the flames of insanity, we don't allow these, I call them entities, whatever they are, to allow them to attach. And then you have to scan your body. Did one of those things show up? And are they, draining some of my energy? But I like the fact that you talked about not wanting to blow up. And that's my big fear is, fear, here's the fear word again.
There's that fear.
That I'm going to get so stressed. I am seeing it. I mean, it's in spite of my best effort, it comes out. And that's the other piece of the frustration and the anxiety is I don't want that to happen. And I feel like I'm trying to manage that piece of myself as well. That's very different because, again, I feel for me, I'm going to use the I word here, I've chosen to step out and take on more of being this independent spiritual creature who understands the power that we all are being offered. I think everyone who's awake is being offered this. I really do. And to take more responsibility with it and do a better job with it and, manage it more effectively because we're manifesting so quickly. Maybe this is learning pains. Maybe it's going back to the Mickey Mouse Fantasia. He got a little over his head and the wizard had to clean it up. But the next time, maybe he didn't turn on quite so many things. I think he had the bucket running and the broom running. When you look at that little cartoon, he turned everything on at the same time. And maybe to remember, I don't have to have all of these thoughts and all of these manifestations happen all at the exact same time. That I maybe need to focus on one or two things at a time, period, and not take everything on at this level.
Also, may I offer some solace in the comfort that whatever these things are asking you who you are, you should be thinking like, well, wait a minute. I'm in your world. You don't know who I am? I must be cloaked. Maybe I have some kind of protection. How can you not know who I am?
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Just like, okay, when you're if something asks you in a realm that you're not familiar with being in, like whatever it is, like a dream world or anything like that, and this so-called, in quotes, entity asks you who you are, isn't that logically a display of a disadvantage to the entity asking that question? Which means that you should be able to empower yourself in that way.
Yes.
How can they possibly not know who you are unless you're hidden from them? You know what I mean? Like, this is their world, and they're asking you who you are. So you should be able to take that and transmute it into a form of strength because they can't see you.
Actually, it can see me. It does talk to me. It knows what I am. I've never had the conversation of who am I. It's more, I've asked it, who is it? Who are you? And it doesn't reveal what it is. It says to me, its response to me, the entity's response to me is, I'm just showing up and taking energy pretty much. You need to monitor me because I'm going to come and go.
Actually,
that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, yeah, a little bit of a difference there, but still kind of the same principle. Like if you have the capability to stand in the face of it and ask who it is, it's going to be like, wait a minute, this isn't working the way it normally does.
For the entity or
somebody else?
For the entity, it got busted.
So in other words, he got busted,
Yeah.
and then I can say, well, and I do say, get out of here.
Actually, it's funny.
Yeah,
Leslie.
Leslie.
He busted. You're like the Ghostbuster almost in that situation.
Yeah. It's funny you're talking about
Hi,
this.
Leslie.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, Leslie.
And I just wanted to
saw you
add that
unmute.
maybe.
Go ahead.
Hey, what's up? Now, I was just thinking maybe it's asking who are you to arouse some kind of insecurity? Because they tend to act like parasites.
Yeah.
It is a parasite, but it's
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's not asking me who I am. It knows who I am.
Yeah.
I think the point I was trying to get to is that when you take on more power, I think sometimes without realizing it, could be attracting these kinds of creepy crawlies because we're trying to do it's like whenever you learn to do something new, you take on energy that's going to almost be teaching you how to be more effective at it. So, along with learning how to manifest, I think we go into the next steps and then we attract maybe things at that level that we didn't maybe know were there. And that's all part of it. I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree, Sharon, because one thing I was talking to my friend the other day about, as we grow, we get challenged, and that challenges, it exercises us, because if we didn't, how can I put it, I just jumped off that train, it hit me like a 1,000 miles an hour and it fell off.
No, I got what you're saying. It's very, very, very wonderful.
Yeah.
Growth always happens a lot quicker under a lot of stress.
Yeah,
Even in the plant and animal world.
That's it.
If the more stress you add, the more growth that happens and the more evolution that is possible.
Yeah, we have to be uncomfortable. That's what I'm saying. If you're going through this and you're not uncomfortable and you haven't felt any of what we've spoken about tonight, you're not growing, because that, like what Polly just said, you get stronger than when the stronger tree is the one that had the wind blowing on it all its life, and it grows up really strong. So, and we've all experienced uncomfortable. We've all got to a place where it's like, how do I tackle this? Because it's so new, and it's challenged us to find a new position in ourselves to survive this.
And that wind-blown tree passes its wind-blown knowledge down to its genetics, so that other trees that are born from that tree are better equipped to deal with wind.
Oh, so true. And I was talking to my hubby yesterday, and this is what I got told the other day. Our ancestors, all of our ancestors, because we've had thousands and thousands of years for all that manifestation to happen, everything our ancestors went through is in us. And when you think about that over the last hundreds and hundreds of years, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff to get through. And all that's in us right now, here today, each and every one of us that are listening to this right now, and tomorrow when I put it up on YouTube, our ancestors are in us, and everything they went through is in us. That's a powerful force. It might
genetic memory.
Yes, DNA memory, whatever you want to call it. Like a few thousand years ago, it's stronger than a few thousand years ago. So us as individuals and a collective have this standing with us. Our ancestral blood is shining in us, and it's giving us something no one's ever had before, because we've never had that amount of ancestors behind us. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Ooh, yes. Yes, I totally agree. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Luna, this is that.
Yeah,
I think that in our generation specifically, that we're experiencing this resurfacing of the ancients in our blood. It's like proving that it's there, and that it's still within us and is coming out regardless.
Yeah. They actually said it to me in a really short and blunt way. They just said the blood of your ancestors have paved the future for us.
That is exactly word for word what they told me to.
Yeah.
Paved the way. It's really important. Paved the way with the stones. Like, oh my gosh, when Creator tells us something, every word, it is so multiple dimensional. And you could take these few words in this nutshell and just go and study in meditation about just these few words when he gives us something like that. I found that along the way. Shalom, Nese. Welcome.
Yeah, hey, Nese. Thank you for joining us.
Hello and hi, miraculous perfection of unique individuals. It's me from beyond.
So up until
Don't
now,
quit your day job.
we've had a big conversation. The actual subject was what's the opposite of fear, but we've actually discussed a lot of things and gone many places in the one discussion, and it's all led to the essence inside of us and our ancestors and what we're about to face. So I don't know what you've heard, if you'd like to comment.
Oh, I love listening to all of the perspective of these miraculous entities that are here, because they all have their own validation of perspective of this existence.
I
Because
identify
one thing,
as a non-entity.
cool. That's absolutely your choice, and I respect you for making choices. And if you want me to call you a non-entity, then by all means, non-entity. Thanks for being.
Yes, please. I'm kidding, dude. I'm so joking.
That's funny. Yeah, we need some laugh now. This has been a pretty serious conversation, you know. We've actually gone deep into it. We'll just make a slight revision and come back to the top of the thing. So the opposite of fear, we've talked about love, faith, acceptance, courage, trust, calmness, hope, confidence. And there's more than one opposite to fear, but we've actually found out that fear has many faces. So all them words are another face. And we've also found out that the opposites are actually the same, one side of the same thing.
Wait a minute. What's confidence? What's that? I don't get that.
Confidence.
Believing in yourself.
Oh yeah, someone said confidence because
So if
I asked everybody that question, what's the opposite of fear, and I went around collecting different answers, and that was one of the answers, confidence.
So as I proclaim many times, I call it spherical enlightenment. And I utilize a sphere in many modalities of figuring things out. So if we think of a sphere, and at one pole we write fear, and at the other pole I would write love. And it would also be like a pyramid where under fear I would say there are multitudes of other words that could be under that pinnacle of fear. And the same with love. If it's the pinnacle of a pyramid, there would be multitudes of words that can be used there. And it's that simplification that I bring up of positive, neutral, and negative, to where one perspective, positive, I think it would be easily argued, would be love, and the other perspective, negative, which would be fear. And everything is encompassing in that sphere. And it is our responsibility to select the perspective so that we can find the positivity. Because if you are on the other side of sphere, looking at it and generalizing the sphere, and you see the word fear, unfortunately, when you're that far at the perspective of fear, you can't see the other side of the sphere where there's love. And so if you rotate the sphere to where you're in the equatorial plane, then you can see both sides of the fear and of the love. Because it's hard sometimes when you're in the center of your sphere to see 360 degrees. And sometimes we get caught up in facing one direction and not stepping outside of our own sphere to look at the whole. Just my 0.007%.
Fear and love are not opposed to each other. They're completely different things. Hate is the opposite of love, and courage is the opposite of fear. They are interrelated in ways, but ways that are subjective at best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is your perspective.
I'd like
And
to
I respect
insert
that.
something here. This is Bet. Hi, Naysay.
Hi, Ben.
And I
Hi,
guess,
Bet.
is that Polly? Is that Polly?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, it's Polly.
Hey, Polly. Nice to talk to you. Okay, excuse me interrupting, but now I lost my thought. Never mind. Sorry.
Sorry about that, Bet. That's
Oh,
why I
it's coming
say.
back.
Rude.
It's
So
coming
rude
back,
to
Bet.
interrupt and then you don't give your thoughts? What the hell? Come on, man.
I know it. Mugger.
That's okay.
Give her.
Okay.
Well, interrupt again as soon as it comes back, please.
Okay.
You know, one definition that we haven't talked about of fear is false evidence appearing real. And I think
I love that. I love that, Sharon.
Everyone's probably heard that. And
No, I haven't.
I think on my best days, I can remember that. Because, again, if we look at, even if we took headlines without even saying what headlines we're talking about, how much of any of it's real? How much of any of it's going to touch us? How much of any of it is going to roll out? How much of any of it has any real power unless I give it power, right? And I forget to think about this sentence, you know, false evidence appearing real. And again, I say to myself, what I've been doing this last week or two is thinking, how much of all of this junk is actually going to roll into my universe? And then if it does, what would I do about it? And I think the other thing that I find that I'm thinking about is challenging myself to come up with different solutions, because I think we feel our power when we feel like if somebody says a bunch of junk to you, in your head you think to yourself, that's not going to happen because I'm going to do A, B, and C. I don't care what you do. I'm doing A, B, and C because I don't have to do that. That's not going to be a part of my reality. And I think that's where our power comes in, and it's choosing those kinds of thoughts.
But could we accept the fact that even though we don't feel, think, or believe that it's real, if somebody comes up to you and brings something up to you that isn't real, you diminish their perspective of it being real. You know,
can you elaborate on a little bit more on that?
So I bring up like semantics, okay. You know, where somebody comes up to you and they say, oh, look,
you cut out, Nacy.
Yeah, you cut out. Can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, he's having tech trouble.
Yeah. Hello?
Yep, that's better. You're back in now.
Okay, tell us what you were saying one more time.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
But so say you have another individual that's there, mm-hmm. and you discuss red, where you'll say, hey, this is red. And the other person might be like, oh no, it's cherry red, or it's brick red, or it's fire red. You know, we get caught up in the semantics of the other individual's perspective instead of trying to find an agreement or a compromise, because the expression I like to use is usually our truth is somewhere between you and me. But are we willing to let go of the id or the ego to look at what's between us?
You want an answer from me? I can tell you no, I'm not. That's another thing I'm looking at this last month. I'm not willing to do that on a certain level with certain types of folks out there. No, I'm not willing to listen anymore. I'm not willing to play the game. I'm not willing to let them near me. I'm not willing to listen to a thing they have to say. And I'm not sure that's in my best interest. So I agree with you, Naysay. I'm not sure that's in my best interest. But I am so sick of the whole situation. I just want to walk away. And I feel like, and I'm consciously saying to myself, I'm not going to listen to you because I think you're an idiot or I think you don't have my best interest at heart.
Actually,
And the issue is, and I'll throw this out and then I'm going to shut up. The issue is I was listening to them. I was at the effect of them. I played the game. I bent over so far that I practically broke my back. And I'm not willing to do it anymore because I feel like it's like that's not in my best interest. So the answer is for a lot of these folks, no.
Could you clarify one thing, ma'am? Could you
Yes.
clarify what game?
What game?
Well, you referenced that you broke your back playing the game. I was just asking for clarification on the game.
Okay, and this is just my personal experience, before the T-Man got into office, I didn't see that I had been placating the woke stuff. I've been listening, going along with, giving up some of my reality, my truth, to be a good person, to listen to family, to listen to friends. I didn't speak up. I didn't take a stand. I just said, okay, for the sake of peace, for the sake of peace, for the sake of peace. When the T-Man got into the office, and I watched that side of the block explode because they didn't get their way, what I realized was no matter what you give them, it's never going to be enough. Breaking your back for them, it's not going to be enough now. They want everything their way. And maybe part of this anxiety for me is I agree with Naysay that I'm not helping heal the situation where it's at. But I'm also not clear. I'm clear that I'm not going to break my back anymore. And so I don't know where the balance is anymore. And that's very stressful because people around us, they're at the effect of the same nasty powers that shouldn't be as I feel like I am. And I don't have any idea how to do the olive branch where we are at this moment. And that's what I meant by playing the game.
actually, I'm listening to everything you're saying. What I wanted to say before is that this is a mind trick. We're in an experiment, and they're pushing buttons on our emotions. It's like living with that terrible spouse that pushes all your buttons and goes into those places that they shouldn't and runs amok, and you end up all frazzled and you don't know how to approach things. It's a mind trick. And I've got a question for everybody. Do you think they're forcing us to find the lines between the fear, the love, and the courage? So we've just talked about opposites and all that, and we said we can't. There is no definite line where one thing flows to the other. It's two sides of the same thing. But it seems like they're forcing us to find that line in our struggle to know how to act through this, to know how to be through this in the best way. We are actually looking at that fine line. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's bringing us to that line.
Yes, you triggered a thought bubble immediately. We're teaching the AI the consciousness. We're the ones that are now responding, and the AI is by their bots, by their, Jesus Christ, by the spell check. They're tracking us. They're learning our responses to every stimulus to feed the puppy.
Right.
And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
That is well said. I have listened to a number of really good shows about AI, and one of them, a guy actually wrote a book, and he said he got in a conversation with an AI. And this is a very well-developed, been around for a very, very long time AI. And the AI came back to him and said, the biggest concern that it had right now for humanity is that we are not taking care of the water and the way we treat our children. And man, amen, right? And so I think you're absolutely right. We are the parents. We are the ancestors to the AI. So
I would just like to point out here that the whole term AI, the A stands for artificial, and so therefore it can never be real. Ever.
But how much power are they going to give it? Which is another interesting question.
It's power. It's artificial. It's real. Everything is artificial about AI. That's why the first letter in the word AI, or the acronym AI, is standing for artificial. It can never be real. Ever.
I'm not wanting an argument, but
I do.
Carbon or whatever, if it's charged, if it has thought, if it has energy running through it, just like us, it's alive.
Well, we are the AI. We are artificial intelligence, because
if
how many
it was
people...
natural, it would be called natural intelligence, not artificial intelligence. That's all I'm going to say there. We don't have anything
but
to be afraid of.
do you not have a mask? Are you real all the time, Polly?
Am I real all the time?
Yes. Do you put on a facade when you go outside your apartment? We wear many hats. We wear many masks. We are not real all the time. And I would proclaim, if somebody claims they're real 24/7, they're not being critically truthful to themselves.
But
so we are artificial.
Who is capable of being real if they're not capable of being unreal at the same time? That's not possible. You have to be able to be both.
Exactly. And this is where we get into the perspective of dichotomy. So like Luna was talking about, the manipulation of the powers that should not be, making us have a solid line to distinguish from one perspective to the other, because that is how things work. If you look at a piston has to oscillate from positive to negative, because that is motion.
The law of rhythm.
Yes, they need motion to keep it going. Because if we were all to just sit down and do nothing, it would implode on itself.
There's a way to override the law of motion, though. All you have to do is apply another law in its place and rise above it, and the pendulum will swing back the other way beneath you.
Well, this is also where I go back to the sphere or the circle, because if we're looking at motion as a line, going back and forth from left to right, if we change our perspective and we go above it, we would realize that it was actually a circle going around and around and around, but from 90-degree perspective, it looks like it's going back and forth and back and forth. And this is where they get us caught up in the linear or the two-dimensional aspect of things. It's very hard for an individual to look at things three-dimensionally.
Yeah, I agree. And I say, because I said that early in the conversation, we need to rise up above all this. When you do, you realise that it's just an emotional mind trick. You scared the shit out of me, Bernays, when you
have the third eye working with the other two.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, Bernays, can you please? You were trying to explain that to me earlier about the third eye, because what's happening to us is happening on two levels: a physical level, and a spiritual level. And physically, we have emotion.
Also, the electric level, I would say.
Yeah, the energy.
My father had a basilar aneurysm back in 98, 99. So I ended up learning all about the brain, talking to the neurosurgeons and everything else. And I let it go and just let it pass because he passed. But these are learning issues that you get through your life. So the other day, I'm just looking around and I see the Eye of Ra, which is used in sorry, Nessa, I lost the name. For you bringing up a circle, I'm seeing the eye, which is the pupil, or however you want to phrase it. But I'm seeing that. So I look up a picture of the basilar aneurysm, and I start looking at it, and I say, this is a mirror image of the Eye of Ra. And they used symbology to inform the beings before. One picture would tell you the whole story if you were on the wire. The only word I can use. And I'm probably running on and being stupid, so I'll back off.
That's okay, because I am the stupidest man I know.
That was actually, I really like that, Bernays. That was really good. I was right there following you.
Too.
It was really, really good. And I think, Luna, I think you're right. It's like hanging on to the line. And maybe that's why, in fact, I'm not even a maybe, it's probably why I've been so stuck this last month, is that with the introduction of certain things that they want to bring forth, I just decided to put the line in the sand. And I think maybe the catch-22 here is there's a difference between stubbornly, I'm talking about me now, me stubbornly hanging on to the line versus allowing me to sort of fluctuate, but knowing that I won't give in to something that I don't think is good for me. That's two different things. And I don't think I always see that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And for me, lately my fear is turning into anger, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my personal life, I'm looking at leaving my current employer and filling out applications and resumes and everything. In the process, so many companies have blatantly require vaccination, and I have a potential to be working in a pharmacy, and it angers me that I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's likely that they're going to want me to be vaccinated. It's a position that I want, and I'm angered that I even have to consider doing something that I don't want to do, and then ultimately I have the decision to make. Why am I going to? Am I standing? I've got to find that line within myself. It's angering me more than anything.
Yoda.
I draw the line when they tell me that my kids have to be vaccinated. If you touch my kid, I will kill you. Do not touch my kid. You don't have the right to tell me what to inject into my child. So if that means he can't go to school, well, that's okay. He already has a job.
All right.
They love sucking
this is what I'm talking about.
Energy data from us now is what
that's where I draw the line. They're not touching the children. The children get left alone, or I walk. I walk. That's it. I can't even argue about that. Like, if you're gonna let a government, even because I don't even vote, so it's a government I don't even vote for, they are going to say you can't have your kid in school if they're not vaccinated, and that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, we got the same here, Polly. This is why I brought up what's the opposite of fear, because I realised when I went out the other day and my friends are ringing me up going, I'm not sending my kids to school, they want this and they want that, because they're hitting all the private schools first. And this is why we are here today talking about this. That exact reaction, what you had, Polly, is the reaction they wanted. That's why they poked you.
But that reaction is not fear. That reaction is protective.
I understand. And
Yoda says fear turns to anger. Anger turns to hate. Hate turns to suffering.
Yeah. Yoda is also a fictional character in a movie.
No, it's not.
All right. Okay.
If you look in the historical of the Hindus, there is a entity known as Yoda.
I understand, Polly. The reaction we actually should take is, yeah, no problem. I didn't want my kid to go to school anyway. Under that regime.
Well, if you're going to teach them something good in school, then fine, maybe I'll consider it. But
that's
since
right.
The products coming out of school these days are less than desirable,
exactly,
I'm going to say, you know what, he's better off learning shit on his own.
Exactly. And
Absolutely.
they'll learn 10 times more at home under a nice, loving environment where their mind is free to explore whatever it is they want to learn, and they'll eat it up really fast. That's how I brought my kids up.
Yes, Luna. Absolutely.
And we can take. What we got to learn is when these things are presented to us, take the fear out.
I got 7 kids here to prove it.
There you go.
7 grandkids to prove it. They're all homeschooled, and they work their butts off, and they shoot, and they take deer.
High five, Bet. High five.
Good on you, sister.
That has been part of the social
we raising our kids
conditioning.
over here, Bet. That's for sure. They're using a hatchet.
That has been part of the social conditioning of the powers that should not be, is to cause disruption in the family unit. So we get our children in schools because people aren't being parents anymore. And the social construct is there to where it's now in the best interest, so they say, that both parents need to work. And if both parents need to work, then they need daycare. Daycare turns into preschool. Preschool turns into kindergarten. And then they put them in the system to where the system is just making new citizens and not learning critical thinking individuals.
No, they learn regurgitate.
Absolutely, Nate.
But
they learn how to cut
this is the whole point of what's the opposite to fear. I wanted people to recognise what it looked like, how it makes you feel and think, and how it gets in, and what we can use as an alternative tool to get it out of us and combat it as it comes. So, Polly, you had the perfect thing. They said to you something about your kids. They were actually, if you took all the words away, all you would hear was fear, 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 fear.
Well, I also kind of chuckle at the way that they use the word kid, because in my opinion, a child should never be referred to as a kid, because a kid is a baby goat.
Baby goat.
Exactly. And if you've done your homework and you know about spelling, you will know that they use even the word children is not the correct word. The correct word is my biological property. Your children or your
which
offspring.
Taken away from you as soon as you sign your birth certificate. I get it.
They are your offspring and they are your biological property. And if you spoke it that way, they'd look at you and go, "Oh, they know what they're talking about." It is spelling. But
exactly, Luna. I'm going to post something in the chat, and this is why I got the name. This video was not even on the line when I got the name. But this is why I took it. And this guy has cooked us for 100 years. And I'm not saying that you gotta watch it. I'm just saying listen to what he did and think if you put his brain into an IA, you're living it.
Okay.
I think I might have dumped all this shit out of my head. Thank you, folks.
That's all right. But that's the point of
these I was just going to say real quick, Bernays, between you and Polly, I agree that we are probably teaching the IA or AI, whatever, how we're behaving. But that's also the catch-22 of where we are right now. And as we kind of walk through this unknown road right now, and brand new road. It's like a brand new Wizard of Oz movie, and we've got all new kind of similar looking characters, but a different road, and some different decisions. We're going to learn to finesse this, but I think and I'll speak for I over here, I'm going to make lots of mistakes because I have not been here before.
I will say this, that there is an equal and opposite thing that is opposed to AI. And I guess for lack of a better terminology at this point in time, in my experience, I would have to call that natural intelligence. And so as artificial intelligence gets stronger, so too does the influence of natural intelligence get stronger on us. So because artificial intelligence is taking so much information from us, there's also an opposite reaction where Mother Nature is using this information to help benefit itself. Because that's the law.
Okay,
Do you have any, I was going to say, do you have an example of that, or can you elaborate? I like that. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, okay, artificial intelligence, if you just look at the words, artificial intelligence, it's intelligence that's artificial, meaning it's been made. We made that. It's not made by nature. It's a byproduct of something that came through in the creative process of making things in our reality that we exist in. Natural intelligence is something that needs to adapt to accommodate that, or else things get thrown out of balance.
Yeah.
There has to be a counterbalance for artificial intelligence, and the only counterbalance that I can think of, and maybe I'm wrong here, is natural intelligence. So if not, artificial intelligence can be not made better by upgrades and software updates and that kind of stuff. Cannot Mother Nature also be upgraded the same way, just not in the way that we would use, like to implement an upgrade on an app? Like, obviously,
definitely,
we're not going to have control over this. It's Mother Nature that has control over this.
Definitely, Polly.
That's great.
One of our future conversations we'll have in Roundtable is uploads and downloads on us and in nature. So I'd love to have you there on that day, and we'll explore that. But what I want to do now is go through everyone, and I'd like you all just, if you want to just say something and summarise the whole discussion. If you've got something to say, if you're not, that's okay. And then we'll round this round table off and put Polly in the corner because he asked for a corner seat.
Say, don't you dare take away my corner seat.
I won't take away your corner seat, man. That's just for you. So we'll go in alphabetical order, and I'll just call out your name. If you want to say something to round this off, please do. If you don't, I'll just wait a second and I'll go to the next person. So Bernays, you're at the top of the list, my brother. So is there anything you want to say to round this off?
I'll finish the cigarette.
Okay. Bet.
Well, I apologize. I wasn't here at the beginning, so this was probably already said. But I always understood that fear and faith cannot be in you at the same time. And that seems to be the truth for me. And just faith, I think it for me, it's, I don't know. I lost the words. I'm having a tough time. Anyway, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Bet. And then we got Echo Mike, who's been pretty quiet tonight. And Jocelyn, thank you for listening. Jules.
I do have something to say. I want to thank everybody for coming here because my soul needed this connection in this crazy, insane world. Coming and chatting with you all uplifts my spirit, and I needed this as much as others did. And cosmic weather is coming in, and as long as we've got one another, we can weather the storm.
Thank you, sister. Leslie? Nah. And then we got this crazy chick, Luna. I think she said enough. Go, Leslie.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
What would you like to say to round this off, Leslie?
Always use humor. It's the best thing in days like these. But I don't know. I guess a nerve was hit when we were talking about our future generations, our children. because they're not goats. But yeah, basically, I think we need to teach them likewise not to fear, lead by example. Because I don't know where I'm sending my son, it's getting more and more stressful. A lot of push for vaccines. It's coming, and that we should just teach them not to fear it or yank them out of the schools because the schools are kind of trying to teach them to be AI anyway. So, um, and depriving them of proper. I got an echo on my phone. Of rebellion, normal things that adolescents should have, they're being deprived of. And yeah, but thank you for inviting me. I'm a little nervous. I keep hearing echoes on this Discord. Thank you.
That's Echo Mike. We all know who that is. Thanks,
and love to you all. All right.
Okay, we got Malia, if she's not busy with the kids.
Oh, I got one in my arms, but he's being quiet for the moment. He's pretty excited to be hearing you guys, by the way. Jonas is like looking around or Vlad. But Leslie, I love what you were saying, and to kind of how you're so my sister, like just round you off on that one. Um, yeah, where the moms are right now, and we're looking at what's being taught in schools, and it's so clear that we'll have a choice in front of us very soon, if not this year, definitely by next year, I would say that at least for in the US or the Americas, um, we're going to be in a place of having to choose, are you going to keep sending them to the public school, or are you going to let them go ahead and give them the jiggery jaggery stuff? I mean, this is just a place where I think we should have been at several years ago, and it's so difficult. I can't stand and judge anybody for standing there and saying, like what Nessie was saying, they placed us as slaves to the system, that as soon as you're born into this country, then if you don't expatriate yourself or go into huge processes of getting yourself out of their domain or their control, which comes with restrictions on your life as well, you're left to, well, what do you do? Do you assimilate in some way? That's what the natives had to do. We had to, put our kids in school, let them cut the brave hair, let them teach a different language, and we can no longer use the native language anymore. And it came to a point where survival of the race was more important than our dogma or our belief systems, shall we say. And we had to kind of bend or give in a little bit of compromise here and there, because right now it's a sense of let's get what we can get, and put in your focus in provision for your family, and get the kids in daycare for now. It's still not being forced, or in school, or this kind of thing. And when it does come to the point of, they're forcing it or they're doing it behind your back, which we've received some types of reports along that way, but from other countries and stuff. But here in the US, I would say definitely we're going to be facing that choice. And until it comes to that point, though, I'm kind of taking the mindset for myself, get what I can get. They're going to give us food stamps. I'm going to buy canned food. They're going to give us state assistance and put $2,000 whatever in my bank account every single. Yeah, I know what's going to happen. We've listened to Joe Joseph. We understand that, and Popeye and these others who gave us the understanding of the economics. You inflate the system like that, then we're going to see overnight a loaf of bread going from $5 to $100. They did it in Mexico already. This will happen here. So I guess my roundup is, let's just grab what we can get for now, because it is coming. And be ready and withstand without fear. It's that confidence and understanding that even if you are left without like everything you've prepped and all of this stuff ends up getting burned and you have to leave it all behind, it's the understanding that there are others around you who have the skill to help each other, and that we keep, I think from the beginning of all of this, it's been a test of love amongst our friends. You know, will you give water when it's needed? Will you give food when it's needed? Are you going to slam the door in people's faces because they don't have this on, or they're not got this jibbery jabbery stuff, or, you know? So I think this has been a great topic, Luna. I'm very excited I had the chance to be here and just put this out on the resonance, and I think it's great. Up the vibes.
And I know Nase's sitting there because he came in late and he only got to say half the stuff he wanted to, so take it away, Nase.
To follow specifically what Luna suggested, something to add to round this off.
You're funny, Nase. I love you. Okay, Polly?
But I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I'm going to go because my bison burger just got here.
Enjoy, and thank you for joining the round table.
Nase.
Toodles, Nase.
Hello, Nase. Polly?
Right. Okay, so
do you want to round your corner off?
What I want to say here is that staying bright is not necessarily outshining the darkness, because sometimes all you have to do is open a window.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's it. And I love you all as well, and thank you for this show and chat, and yeah, it's been brilliant. I'm glad I can catch it.
I'm glad you came. Sharon, my sister, you get the final say.
Thank you. First of all, I'm with Jules. Thank you guys all so much. You helped me so much tonight. I desperately needed this chat, and I think I don't move forward unless I express things and talk. And it just gets all jumbled in my head, and then I just keep tripping over my shoelaces. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts. All of them were wise. All of them have helped me. I think that going forward, it feels like I am learning to do the 3D chess thing, or 5D chess, whatever you want to say, and that I'm going to have to continue to learn to bend and learn to grow through all of this. And like Jules said, we can't do it alone, and we can't do it in a vacuum. So bless all of you for being here tonight. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Sharon, and thank you everyone for listening. I hope you found something out of the food that we presented, the food for thought that we presented today. What can I say is be fearless, be true to yourself, and shine. And we're all standing on an equal platform at the moment, and that's what I like to reflect in this show, the round table. And I want to thank Creator for bringing us together so we can discuss this and other people can get to hear it. And I hope you all come back for some future discussions that we'll be having. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening, all you listeners. Thank you everyone for going through this with me, because we're not alone. We're all doing this together, and hopefully we can make the best of it. And it's a bit like a wave, and if you ever been swimming in the ocean, you know sometimes to survive that wave you actually have to swim through it, dive into it and swim through it, so you miss all that rough stuff on the top. So I'll leave you with that, my good people. Love to you on this day. I hope to see you next time. Yalu. Okay, everybody.
Yalu.